ग्रेट निकोबार में जो बन रहा है वो भी एक ट्रांसशिपमेंट पोर्ट है, उसका खर्चा होगा 76,000 करोड़। तो ये जो मोटा मोटा जो आकलन आप लोगों को दिए हैं, तो ये 2 ट्रांसशिपमेंट पोर्ट अगर बनता है तो भारत और इसका सही इस्तेमाल जब होने लगेगा, भारत विश्व में 5 नंबर पे आएगा वर्ल्ड रैंकिंग में पोर्ट शिपिंग वाटरवेज में। तो ये जो एक देखिए जियोग्राफी देख के हमको समझना है चैलेंज क्या है हमारा। अभी पूरे वर्ल्ड का सी से जो ट्रेड होता है, इसका 30% ट्रेड हमारे भारत महासागर से होता है, हिंद महासागर से। और हिंद महासागर हमारे नाम पे है और हम उसका बेनिफिट नहीं उठा सकते, उठा नहीं पा रहे थे। इतना अच्छा जियोग्राफिकल लोकेशन हमारे पास है, लेकिन हम लोग उसका सही इस्तेमाल नहीं कर पा रहे थे, क्योंकि डिफरेंशिएशन जो है ये देखने का है। जियोग्राफी को देख के हमको समझना चाहिए कि वहां का स्ट्रैटेजी क्या होगा, वहां का प्लानिंग क्या होना चाहिए, बस यही। अभी देखिए सिंगापुर, कोलंबो, यही 2 ही देश इसका फायदा ले रहा था। अभी हमारा जब ट्रांसशिपमेंट पोर्ट बनेगा ग्रेट निकोबार में, गैलाथिया बे में, तब पूरा ये 2 देश का जो बेनिफिट ये चला आएगा हमारे उस ट्रांसशिपमेंट पोर्ट में, क्योंकि वो ऐसा जगह में स्थित है जितना दूर है कोलंबो से उतना भी सिंगापुर से। तो बीच में जो ये हमारा स्टेशन होगा और वहां का मॉडर्नाइजेशन होगा। सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि एक पोर्ट बन गया है, उसको चलाने के लिए जितने सारे लोगों की जरूरत होगा, उसके लिए टाउन का जरूरत होगा, उसके लिए बिजली का जरूरत होगा, उसके लिए एयरपोर्ट का जरूरत होगा। तो ये जब बनेगा तो वो एक बहुत अच्छा सिटी और हब बन सकता है। तो वहां से भारत को भी लीड किया जा सकता है। वैसे तो है ही हमारा मेन लैंड, लेकिन वो भी एक बहुत अच्छा स्पेशल और बहुत ताकतवर एक जगह बन सकता है, जहां से साउथ ईस्ट एशिया को डोमिनेट कर सकते हैं हम लोग। तो ये जो सोच है, ये सोच हम लोगों को विकसित भारत के तरफ ले जा रहे हैं। और ये सोच के लिए इक्वेशन और इक्वेशन को जोड़कर एक बहुत अच्छा समाधान हम लोगों को करना है। अभी देखिए जो इंडिजिनस प्रोडक्ट के बारे में हम बोले कि कई प्रोडक्ट पोर्ट को आना है और वही प्रोडक्ट अगर ऐसा हो कि वही प्रोडक्ट 15 दिन लग गया पोर्ट में आने के लिए, तो ये समय का कितना मतलब ये हो रहा है। वही प्रोडक्ट अगर 2 दिन में आ जाता है डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर के माध्यम से, तो ये बहुत बड़ा साधन होता है और उसके बाद वहां से ट्रेड होगा, एक्सपोर्ट होगा, वहां से बहुत कुछ हो सकता है। तो पोर्ट एक ऐसा माध्यम है जो जिसके द्वारा भारत का विकास का हम पहला स्टेप को समझ सकते हैं कि जहां से शुरू होगा। हम लोग देखे हैं कि माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने भारत के विकास के लिए खास करके हमारा 9 जो स्टेट हैं कोस्टल एरिया में, उस एरिया को डेवलपमेंट कराने के लिए सागरमाला का एक साधन लाया है, जहां से जितने सारे स्टेट्स हैं वहां से विभिन्न प्रांत से वहां पोर्ट में संजोग हो, पोर्ट के साथ के माध्यम हो रोड का, फिर उस इलाके का डेवलपमेंट, ऐसे करके पूरा सागरमाला से हम लोग भारत का एक बहुत बड़ा चिंता, जैसे भारतमाला हुआ था वैसे सागरमाला भी एक बहुत बड़ा चिंता है स्टेट कोस्टल जो एरिया है उसको जोड़ने के लिए। आज एक उदाहरण देता हूं फास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी टू लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी जो हम सोचते हैं, खास करके नॉर्थ ईस्ट और नॉर्थ वेस्ट भारत का जो जगह है, बहुत ही खराब स्थिति है वो जगह का जो हमारा कम्युनिकेशन है। ये उदाहरण मैं दूंगा कि रिसेंटली जो चिनाब ब्रिज तैयार हुआ है, कश्मीर के साथ पहले हमारा जो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन हुआ करता था उसका टर्न अराउंड के बारे में सोचिए। अभी चिनाब ब्रिज हो जाने के बाद उनके साथ हमारा टर्न अराउंड टाइम के बारे में सोचिए। तो जो जियोग्राफिकली हमारा जो थॉट्स है उसका बढ़ावा देना, क्योंकि कॉस्ट तभी बढ़ेगा जब हमारा कम्युनिकेशन ठप पड़ जाएगा। कॉस्ट तभी बहुत इजी होगा जब हमारा कम्युनिकेशन इजी हो जाता है। तो ये कम्युनिकेशन के लिए आप लोग देख रहे हैं नॉर्थ ईस्ट का स्पेशल मिनिस्ट्री लाके नॉर्थ ईस्ट का कितना अच्छा डेवलपमेंट किया जा रहा है कि वहां का जो जियोग्राफी है उसको हम लोग कंट्रोल में लाके अगर सही तरीके से उस जगह को इस्तेमाल करें तो नॉर्थ ईस्ट भी एक ग्रेट टूरिज्म प्लेस हो सकता है। कुछ दिन पहले आप लोगों ने देखे हैं कि गंगा विलास वाराणसी से होकर बिहार के भीतर से थ्रू बिहार, थ्रू झारखंड, थ्रू वेस्ट बंगाल, थ्रू बांग्लादेश से पूरा असम तक गए हैं और ये भी 52 डेज में गए थे और उसमें 32 जो पैसेंजर थे वो स्विट्जरलैंड से थे। सो आफ्टर विजिटिंग एवरी स्टेट, एवरी कॉर्नर, जब वो पहुंचे हैं 3500 किलोमीटर ऐसा कुछ ये तय करके, तब उन्होंने जो रिपोर्ट दिया है उनका रिपोर्ट था कि उनके जीवन में जितने टूर्स उन लोगों ने किए हैं सबसे बेस्ट टूर यही था गंगा विलास टूर, क्योंकि डाइवर्सिटी ऑफ इंडिया इज वेरी डिफरेंट and every states after every state there is a different type of culture, different type of geography, different type of location, different type of scenario. So it is amazing. तो उन्होंने ऐसा डिस्क्राइब किया है। तो हम लोग जो करते हैं, जो कर रहे हैं मिनिस्ट्री के तरफ से, पूरे मिनिस्ट्री के जितने सदस्य से, वो है भारत का विकास। हमको बहुत अच्छा लगा आज का ये जो ओकेशन अपने रखे हैं इसमें पार्टिसिपेट करते हुए। माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी चाहते हैं कि बिजनेस का जो लोग पिलर हैं उनको आगे बढ़ाया जाए। तो मैं मानता हूं आप स्पाइन ऑफ द बिजनेस ऑफ द इकोनॉमी, तो इस आप लोगों को बढ़ावा, आप लोगों को आगे आना, मतलब हमारा जो माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी को जो सपना है उस सपने को बढ़ावा देना। आज का जो लोकेशन ये एक हिस्टोरिकल रहेगा, इसलिए कि प्रधानमंत्री जी ने खुद ही एक्सपोर्ट के ऊपर जोर देने के लिए बोला है, ज्यादा एक्सपोर्ट करो, कम इंपोर्ट करो। तो विकसित भारत का जो लक्ष्य, जो उद्देश्य है वो एक्सपोर्ट ही होगा, क्योंकि इकोनॉमी हमारे भीतर बढ़ाना है। तो ये पार्टिसिपेशन मैं मानता हूं कि फ्यूचर भारत के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा ब्राइट थॉट से आज का ये कॉन्क्लेव, आज का ये फेस्टिवल मैं मानता हूं। ज्यादा बात को मैं नहीं बढ़ाऊंगा, सबको धन्यवाद करते हुए मेरा ये छोटे बात को विराम देता हूं। सबको नमस्कार, जय हिंद।
Present here are committed to make the Prime Minister's dream true, your dream true, and your ministry is an integral part of our mission in enhancing our exports and the global footprint. We are grateful to you. CI is willing to work with you on any of the programs that you want to initiate. And I'm grateful to Mr. Rajesh Agarwal as well as Mr. Vijay Kumar. Ladies and gentlemen, once again put your hands together for the gentleman here. With this we bring the inaugural session to an end. We are grateful to you, sir. Used to deal with real wars. The world were used to deal with the pandemics. World had mechanism to overcome terrorism. World, all these were the battles. Trade was as a battle is a new thing we are dealing with. Finally, as we are aware that many of us as professionals, many families, many stakeholders benefited from the globalization. And I can say this, that my generation took off in a big way in terms of learning, in terms of our own growth. It was due to globalization. Suddenly we have a world which is much different. And so the exports and the expanding the global footprint is an imperative. And I'm sure we will do it as a country, but then the logistics become an important pillar. I'm certain these gentlemen closely connected with this particular industry will add immense value to you. Thank you.
Foreign trade. So you have been connected with this particular subject much deeper than many of us, because it is the area in which you specialize, and you have done immense research and also have studied the global benchmarks. So we will begin with you, your opening remarks, please.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to first thank CII for inviting me to speak in this very eminent panel of experts. What I will do, because we have limited amount of time, is to flag some of the challenges, specifically from a trade policy perspective, which is linked to this topic. Also linked to logistics efficiency and the transition that we have to make towards the greener logistics operation. I will flag the challenges and probably not have any solutions, but there are a galaxy of experts who follow, so I'm sure they will be able to do justice to that. So, first of all, we have now globally a move towards a greener logistics. Some of it is being pushed by international norms, which are in many cases mandatory. In some cases, they are more soft in the sense that those norms are aspirational and not mandatory. As far as the mandatory norms are concerned, that represents a challenge for a developing country like India. So take for example the norms that IMO, the International Maritime Organization, has brought in. So what are some of the challenges for this transition to be compliant with these norms of green shipping? The first one obviously is that the IMO's targets are technology agnostic, which means in many cases the mix of fuel or what technology you adopt to have green shipping is left to the market. So in principle that's not a bad idea, but there are challenges in terms of scale and adoption of specific technologies and that becoming available at a cost that is feasible. In some cases this demand for move to, let's say, biofuels will actually create challenges elsewhere, as you will see expansion of cultivable land and even use of forest land to grow some of these biofuels. So, what you are taking away, what you are gaining by one hand, you are taking away with the other. So that's another challenge. Biofuels in itself, the expansion of demand for biofuels represents an environmental challenge. The other issue is, of course, what we call the just transition. Many people would argue that shipping, especially containerized shipping, is already dominated by large players. In order to shift to this greener technology, it will be very difficult for smaller shipping companies. The cost will be much more sharper, which will probably increase the dominance of large players as they take over shipping in a more in a more aggressive way. So you're making an industry which is already perhaps not the most competitive into even less competitive. So, and also the fact remains that for developing countries like India, for shipping companies which are much smaller with less deeper pockets, the transition becomes much more difficult. So the adoption and scale issues obviously remain. Then another dimension is the questions that we need to ask is, for example, if my trucks are already Bharat 6, which is equivalent to Euro 6, I'm already achieving a decent level of emission control. But there is this whole argument to move towards EVs. I'm not in favor or against it. But think about it. If you are using EV and you're charging large commercial vehicles now drawing a lot of power from a grid which is still dependent largely on thermal, dirty power, then which is the trade-off? Is it better to go for efficient BS6 standard trucks and better control over that, or move to EV? So this whole transition towards green, we have such fundamental questions that we need to ask. I'll end with one more bigger challenge which, as a trade policy expert, that I see, and I would like to hear from the rest of the panel as well. You will see many countries, and we have seen moves in places like European Union, where they are saying that for goods to be transported to my country, I will unilaterally impose certain standards. Right? So we have heard of CBAM, which is the production standard, but even logistically, certain kinds of vessels will not be able to call on my ports, which again is actually a competitive barrier, because I might not have access to those kind of vessels at competitive prices, and you are therefore pricing me out of the market as a developing country in many places. So there are equity issues, that emerge and makes trade policy much more complicated. So as we transit towards this environmentally sound logistics, there are plenty of challenges that we need to navigate, even including in a small area like packaging. So everybody is against plastic packaging here, but norms come here. Some would argue arbitrarily. Now, it's good to get away from plastics, but get away to what? Is it, do you want, bioplastics? If that's my option, my industry has not scaled up to meet my demand. The adoption and the ability to adapt, the skills to adapt are not available. So essentially, where we are stuck today is that we have an aspiration. There are multiple paths to aspiration. We don't know which one is the appropriate. Every country is experimenting. And the challenges of equity as well. The cost of transition will be disproportionate on the smaller players. Given these challenges, I need to have policies which are sound, and it needs to be driven by practical inputs from industry players as to what would be cost effective, easy to adapt from a developing country perspective. And that is the narrative I should push in global platforms, including in the IMO. One of the challenges we have had is we don't know what to argue in the IMO. We don't know what to argue for our industry in these platforms. So we need better inputs from experts like we have in this panel to guide us in the right direction. I'll end there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That's indeed thought-provoking as well as pragmatic to point out the real diagnosis. One question to you. Do we have an option?
That's an excellent question. Yes, we do have certain options. So when we are negotiating international norms agreements, India as a large player today, as a large global player today, we do have influence on outcomes. So we do have some influence on outcomes in global norms. See, nobody is arguing that any of us would ever argue that we are against the green transition. What we are saying is that the green transition has to be a just transition as well. It cannot be a transition where my economy, my industries, my people are priced out of the market. So as a country, I need to argue that it is hard. And therefore, I need to know what is my optimal market. That's what
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So you mentioned about DEI as well. Here is a gentleman, we are fortunate to have him as a part of the panel, Mr. Sriram, Chief Strategist of Avtar. So your opening remarks for the subject of DA is also connected here.
The challenge of balancing rapid business growth with environment responsibility is both important and strategic. In simple terms, it's about aligning expansion with sustainable practices without compromising on profitability. Because it's a double value, you can call it triple value. All the business enterprises is working for profits. Cost escalation is there, and at the same time, sustainability is equally important. So how do you balance this is something very important for all the business enterprises. So I think green technologies require upfront investments. But do you look at it as an investment or do you look at it as a cost? Because budgets should be strained, but you look at long-term yields and the brand loyalty, then that is where sustainability plays an important role. Environmental regulations are something which you have in India, world, EU, emission norms are very, very tough. They can complicate scaling, but proactive compliance builds trust. As a former head of operations and director on the board of a large MNC, over 35 years of experience, I have witnessed the evolution of industry, practices and growing imperative to balance expansion with the environmental sustainability. So in my career, I have seen operational efficiency drive profitability, but today sustainability is equally critical. We adopted energy efficient technologies, renewable energy sources like solar, powering factories, reducing emissions while scaling production, and optimizing supply chain with green tech, using battery-driven trucks, using of reverse logistics, and aligning growth with environmental goals. R&D, according to me, is not innovation alone. We did a lot of innovation, lightweighting of bottles, biodegradable materials, recycled paper for corrugated boxes. But R&D is not innovation alone. R&D is also something to do with re-engineering as such. So leveraging technology is something very, very important that is growing by the day, and the government of India has taken several measures to use AI, blockchain, IoT, and several technologies which are growing every day and giving us lots of wonderful outputs wherein we can control our cost, reduce our inventory, and also control emissions to a large extent. But having said that, Mr. Vijay Kumar in the morning shared all of data points. Some of the data points with regard to MSME is, MSMEs currently export around 10% as far as India is concerned. And if you take pair economies, they export around 40%. And that is where India has a long way to go. I think MSMEs should be able to collaborate, form clusters if it is possible. They are doing it, but they should do it in a big way because shared resources bring reduction of cost and increasing bargaining power. Collaborative shipping is something we can do, but multiple organizations share transportation, again reducing cost and emissions. And all business enterprises should go for a ZED certification. It is zero effect quality certifications, which is globally accepted norms. And we had recently had a case of a huge consignment of mangoes getting rejected in US. With lack of compliance, lack of documentation, that is where as business enterprises we have to learn. And we saw the Honorable Minister today morning saying, echoing the sentiments of Prime Minister, that we have to increase the exports to a large extent. That means compliance, learning, training is equally a must. According to the Transport Minister, I saw in papers that India spends around 22 lakh crores on imports of fossil fuels, which is a huge economic challenge. Using alternate fuels can bring down, I think that is where we have to do it. The government has talked about electric trucks and flash charging. Of course, Mr. Banerjee had his own views on that. But how do we scale it forward is something we can see. But the Paris emissions accord, I think we have to bring down and have green emissions to the extent of 40%. And my take internally would be by 2030 that 50% of our source of energy should be on green technology. Digital technology should be considerably used. The greenest car in India, the greenest car in the world is by Brazil. It's around 87%. Next is Germany, is about 47%. India is somewhere around 20%. We have a long way to go. And that is where, as an enterprise, as an organization, we have a big role to play. But my request to CII would be to other organizations would be, investors of large, medium scale, or even small investors, individual investors like us, we are investing on sustainability through individually or separately organizations, can the government of India consider some concessions? Even for example, I will go to the extent of saying that if you are 100% investing on sustainability, can we have reduction of capital gains tax or something like that, which will enable all the partners and all the business enterprises to go more strongly for sustainability while driving profitability. Having said that, with our collective efforts, we can do wonders, and India Incorporated can make big strides with our Prime Minister's vision of achieving a 7 trillion economy by 2030, $19 trillion economy by 2040, and $35 trillion economy by 2047. It's all in our hands, and together we can collaborate and make it happen. Thank you.
This question we have asked, I mentioned to you that we are going to become number one in the world in terms of green built environment, certified green built environment. Our direction changed, that we cannot be saying for a building to be platinum rated or a gold rated, it is going to be expensive. We are very clear that India's growth is driven by aspiration middle class, and we have a huge social responsibility as well, that whatever we do, it has to make business sense, economic sense. The research was driven in a different manner altogether, that whether I can make a green building platinum rated at the same price. And we have got there, at least to commercial buildings, it will be possible to get a green platinum rating without spending 1 rupee more per square feet. Equally important is the policy initiatives. Everything will not happen through legislation alone, but whether there could be incentives, that point is well taken. Say for example, in this analogy I am telling you that there is concession in the stamp duty or concession in terms of FSI. If it is a green platinum rated building, this is the FSI concession I will give. Hand in hand it has worked, and there are many successful programs that way are there. And the dilemma always will be that whether my focus should be increasing my exports and at the same time how to do it without incurring additional cost in making it a sustainable value chain. Because it is not a level playing field out there. There are advanced nations and the global arena who will be able to do that. They have crossed that threshold. I turn to again subject matter expert, Mr. Sanjeev, Secretary General of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, closely connected with the very subject. Over to you, sir, for your remarks.
Good morning to everybody, the panelists and the audience. When we talk of sustainability in transport and logistics, and exports being one of the primary subjects for today, then we have to look at the manner in which I am transporting and providing logistics facilities for export of consignments via sea through the ports. Unfortunately, most of the consignments which are moving to different ports from the hinterland are moving by road, which is the most non-sustainable form of transport. The most sustainable form of transport is obviously inland waterways and coastal shipping. And the next more sustainable or less sustainable, I would say, is railways. And the least sustainable is road. Unfortunately, our pyramid is absolutely inverted. In India, 60% of the freight moves by road, 25% by rail, and less than 5% by water. And interestingly, the
more sustainable a form of transport is, the greater the challenges of first and last mile connectivity in those forms of transport. So therefore, when we talk of sustainability, we have to provide seamless first and last mile connectivity to the most sustainable forms of transport, that is water and rail. While we are all happily clapping at the huge number of so-called expressways, highways that are being developed, forgetting that road consumes a huge amount of land for transporting the same quantum of traffic which would otherwise move by rail or water. If you look at multimodal transport, that is containers, let's say, in India, Mundra Port, which is one of the biggest, and of course JNPT, you have the recent, I think today's news item which says that they have moved 10 million TEUs in the last financial year. From JNPT, only 10% of the containers which are coming to JNPT are moving by rail. 90% are being dissipated by road. In Mundra, only 20% of the containers are moving by rail. 80% are moving by road. So when we are talking of sustainability in transport and logistics, that is where we have to strike and ensure that we start moving our freight traffic, let's say containers, by more sustainable means of transport. And that is where our biggest challenges lie, at the policy level, at the government implementation level, and also from the trade. They all have to get together and ensure that we actually physically start moving our freight containers by sustainable means of transport. Interestingly, in places like Rotterdam, which has the biggest container port in the world, from there dissipation of containers is mostly by water. So therefore in Europe, in fact, a large form of freight containers and even bulk traffic is moving by on water, and which is the most sustainable form of transport. We have not been able to pay attention to the more sustainable forms of transport, and that is why our reliance largely on road. In 1950, 90% of the freight traffic was moving by rail. Today it's less, it's just about 25%. So while it is all very good to talk about sustainability, but then when you come to the ground level, we are not delivering. So therefore, I mean, merely talking about sustainability in logistics is not going to help us. We have to, all of us, get together and get down on the ground and ensure that we move towards sustainability in logistics and transport. Professor Banerjee has very rightly pointed out that movement from diesel trucks to EVs is or may not be the most ideal solution, because ultimately EVs also consume energy, and if your energy is being powered by fossil fuels at the back end through thermal power stations which are spewing smoke into the air, then where is your sustainability? While a diesel truck will throw out small chunks over the entire stretch of the road, a thermal power station is throwing out the same kind of smoke in one concentrated area. But that is within the country, and people around the thermal power stations have to suffer from the environmental pollution. And that is the reason why the capital seat of the government in Delhi, powerful as it is, decided to close down all the thermal power stations located in NCR region. We had Rajghat, Indraprastha and Bhadarpur. And we decided that the rural poor living in far off areas will suffer that pollution and we will feed that power into Delhi. And we will feel happy that now Delhi is going to move towards EVs. So therefore, it is not something that EVs are a double-edged sword. And Professor Banerjee has very rightly flagged this issue. So my request to every one of us is that wherever green forms of transport, I repeat, water and rail are available, we have to make a concerted effort to transfer that traffic to road and rail rather than talking of developing more highways, expressways and then moving it on EVs. That is my take. Thank you.
Is that it has to be done in a competitive manner. So the costs here are important in a country where the cost of capital is high. That is another area one will have to look at. So obviously this debate will continue. Whether sustainability in terms of priority is number 1 or 2 or 3, and whether we need to reach some scale before worrying about. And the point is valid that there is other means of transportation, and I suppose Government of India is this morning we heard about the inland waterways itself, that how investments are being made, and I suppose we are in the right direction. Now here is someone with a global experience of this. DP World have done excellent work. Srivastava, Vice President Corporate Affairs and Security of DP World Private Limited to make his remarks.
Distinguished panelists and the august audience, I would like to start with a refreshing note. It's not all gloom and doom in terms of sustainability. I would also like to point out that there are very tangible steps which are being taken by commercial entities like ourselves, as Mr. Tyagarajan very nicely attributed some amount of efforts to us. And I completely agree with Mr. Tyagarajan. We have to have a very concerted approach in which we look at partnerships across governance, across the private entities who actually can look at tangible steps. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell you a couple of things which we in the industry have been doing from a perspective of sustainability, and it's not all in the realm of the doable because there are certain constricting elements of the public policy which needs to be addressed. But having said that, there are still avenues which we can partake in and stuff which we can do which is extremely transformative. So, taking a leaf out of the book of multimodal logistics, it's very important to understand that it's something which is doable in our country. And I would just like to throw a use case at you to sort of give you the concept. There was a man, I will not name the entity, but suffice to know that there was an enterprise which was producing its stuff here in Kerala, and it was transporting its stuff all the way up to Haryana and Ambala in the warehouses, and it came to us as to for looking for a more multimodal solution. So we offered a mix of coastal, we offered a mix of road and rail, and by just doing this, of course, at a tangible cost to the time, which was not of consequence to the customer, because they also offset their warehousing cost by the time the stuff was in transit. We could take off almost 500 trucks off the road, and we could also look at almost 60% reduction in carbon emission for that transportation alone. And surprisingly, it also resulted in a reduction in the cost to almost 4%. So there are tangible opportunities which are available there. It's just that we have to mature as a commercial entity, not to look at it at a very fragmented level. We need to look at it at a more holistic level, that are we actually going about offering multimodal solutions to our customers, or are we really happy in our own domains of either operating the rail business, or are we looking simply at the ports and terminals, or are we very happy with just 90% of the global trade flowing through the seas, and we are happy with the shipping? No. So I think we need to look at it a little more holistically. That's one point which I wanted to make. And very quickly, the second point which I wanted to make was that even in the realm of shipping, there are tangible steps being taken by the shipping fraternity. I mean, I would just like to point out one endeavor which we advocated during the COP, which was held in UAE last year, in which we talked about reducing the refrigeration temperature from -18 to -15, actually increasing it to -15. Now that alone, this move which we advocated with solid research, it was adopted by almost 60% of the refrigerated container shipping industry globally. And it's been accepted by almost 30% of the world largest food producers and refrigeration units in the world. Now this alone can cut almost 17.7 billion tons of GHG emissions. Now that's a number which we cannot ignore. So there are a lot of transformative ways in which we can also look at changing the way the benchmarks stand as of now to allow us leverage to see how we can actually reduce the emissions and at the same time offer the same value to the customers. And last but not the least, in the realm of shipping, we are also looking at green fuels. We are looking at partnering ways in which we can actually look at methanol-based ships as fuels to be used for our ships, and we have already started acquiring the ships for our shipping lines which do the regional routes. And we are now to a point which was made a little earlier in the day by the Honorable Minister of State for Shipping about looking at ways in which we can increase the flagging of Indian ships. We are looking at that very actively because that is a space in which we can contribute, and we feel that there is a lot of avenue for us to grow in that space. Along with our concern with sustainability, it naturally helps in boosting coastal trade, which was very amply brought out by my esteemed panelists. So these are some of the areas where we in the commercial domain are looking at participating. And I would like to end on a note that while the transformation is going to be long, but given the synergy which we have now with the Government of India and also with the like-minded trade bodies, we will be able to reach there sooner or later. That's the point which I want to make. Thank you so much. This whole process of sustainability which was originally brought out. But from DP World's perspective, I would like to point out that we have also partnered with international entities. We are partnered with the Maersk Moller Institute for fuels, in which we are trying to figure out which are the other transformative fuels which you can use for the shipping industry, and what is it that we can do in the space of container manufacturing, which actually revolutionizes the transportation of perishables. So we are doing tangible research from our own point of view, and we'll be happy to look at avenues which can be created for us in consonance with the efforts of the Government of India to see what we can do in the country from a point of view of sustainability.
Thank you. Tata Group's commitment to sustainability is well known to many of us. I would request you to look at, as the annual reports are getting published, their PRSR disclosures. Company after company, they have been doing remarkable work in this area. The groups own sustainability goals. The companies within Tata Group, all of them are pursuing the net zero mission in a significant manner. And we have with us Mr. Shantanu Verma, Chief of Logistics and Procurement of Tata Steel. Let us hear from you.
Distinguished panelists on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. So, in terms of sustainable logistics, yes, we have taken a few first mover steps at Tata Steel. So, I have a couple of slides, and that we put up, please. What points which I will cover in my brief today. If you see, India exports about 435 billion, out of which 13 billion is accounted by iron and steel. Out of this 13 billion, 1 billion is what Tata Steel exports. So we are primarily into the domestic market because the NRs are good in India. But we do about 1.3 to 1.5 million tons, which translates into 1 billion. Now, if you look at the steel which we export, it is break bulk vessels on full charter basis, where we export slabs and coils. And then we have other commodities like ferrochrome, tin plate, wires and tubes, which we export in containers. So our exports are primarily from east coast of India, where our plants are, to various global destinations. So this is how it is. We use the ports of Dhamra and Paradip for our exports into Far East, Japan, Southeast Asia, United States, and of late we are sending a lot of steel to UK, where we have a couple of plants in UK. But as a sustainability initiative, we have shut down all our blast furnaces in UK, and we are shifting into electric arc furnaces there. It will take about 2 to 3 years time for these electric arc furnaces to come up, and till such time, in order to feed the downstream there, we are sending slabs and hot roll coils to the tune of 1,50,000 to 2 lakh tons a month to UK. So we are into sustainable manufacturing. Tata Steel has achieved a carbon intensity of 2.2. Like I mentioned, target is to, in India also, we are coming up with the EAF plant of 1 million ton in Ludhiana. It should be operational by March next year, and the target is to take that capacity to 3 million tons. So all this is towards sustainable or green steel which we want to produce. UK I mentioned, we are transitioning into electric arc furnace, and we have the lowest specific water consumption in India. In terms of sustainable logistics, we are going beyond compliance. So Tata Steel is the only steel player in the world to be a signatory to the Sea Cargo Charter. Scope 3 emissions are measured and reported. Tata Steel is using biofuel in our shipments. So we brought the first Cape vessel last year in the month of August with biofuel, complete biofuel, full voyage from Australia into India, and eco-friendly fleet powered by LNG for our road movement. So let me mention here that we deploy about 8,000 trucks every day to transport our steel. And out of this, in each and every contract, we are keeping 20% for greener vehicles. So that's the target to start with, and it will increase day by day. In manufacturing also, we have taken many steps. So, like it's mentioned, aim to achieve zero carbon neutral by 2045. So this is the target which the Tata Group has taken. Although the country, the Honorable Prime Minister has mentioned that India would like to be zero carbon neutral by 2070. As the Tata Group, we have taken a target to be zero carbon neutral by 2045. And it's not that it's just, we are looking at 2045. There are plans in place in the current annual business plans as to what steps we are going to take this year, next year, and there are milestones which have already been put in place to achieve this. We have a partnership with Green Line to deploy LNG powered smart trucks cutting scope 3 emissions. The vessels which we charter, we make it a point that it is rated between A to C. We do not charter any D or E class vessels. This comes at a cost. and we charter about 400 vessels in a year, so more than one vessel per day. As I mentioned, we use biofuels.
First audience, a very good afternoon. Privileged to join you at this export logistics seminar, and I would like to thank CI for giving this opportunity. As we collectively move towards achieving the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of ExL Bharat by 2047, improving the logistic efficiency will be the key, not only to improve our to the productivity of our industries as well as to improve our export competitiveness. So today, actually, I would like to touch base on three sectors which play a transformative role in terms of improving logistic efficiency and also making them sustainable and making them in direction of the GHG emission. So first thing is the railway sector. So today we are at almost 98% of Indian railway network is electrified. In the last 10 years, we have electrified, the pace of electrification was almost 14 times the pace of electrification that was prior to 2014. So that is the motto with which the approach towards greening and making the transportation sustainable. In addition to that, not only the making it green, but also the source of energy. With coal being the base load plant, coming the abundant solar and wind potential, solar being the hybrid mode, plus pumped storage coming into the picture, we have a very good competitor to the coal. And I don't think we should have any doubt and looking back at the approach of EVs. With solar, wind and pumped storage and other storage mechanisms, EV, whatever the incremental, we are going to charge the EVs from the incremental energy, not from the thermal. Thermal is going to be there. This is the policy that we are looking at. We have to, there should not be any looking back in the green approach, and EVs have to be there and they will be there. So now other way you look at the railways in terms of how one is greenery, other is logistic efficiency. Looking at the dedicated freight corridor, there's already almost 96% is completed and almost more than 400 trains are operating daily. And the time taken from the hinterland to the ports has substantially come down. Not only the DFC, looking at the third line, fourth line, from 2 lines to third line took a long way. Now we are going from third line to fourth line and improving the connectivity to the coal mines and other mining areas. So that's how we are able to not only move faster as well as it's sustainable. So these things are already in pipeline and are happening so that the share of the railways and the coming days will definitely improve. And of course, it's the market. The share of the will depend on the market efficiency. Somebody has to, the container has to go to a distance of 100 kilometers and 200 kilometers. Railways may not be competitive end to end. You say look at the cost. So it's a competitive market, but yes, you have to have railways have to have a capacity to move. Capacity should not be constrained. You are going by mode of transport which consumes more just because of you are constrained by the capacity. I think that's being addressed. So while rail is for the bulk movement, and I think I beg to differ on the highways also the approach that highways are inefficient in terms of gauge. I beg to differ. The reason being, if you are going for the same in terms of statistics, if I take the last 10 years, we have gone, our 4-lane network has increased by 150%. That we moved from 18,000 kilometers to right now we are at 45,000. We were hardly having around 90 kilometers of expressway. Right now we are in the 4-digit figure. So that's the pace at which we are moving. And what are the projects that are in pipeline? What are the projects that are coming up? Like for example, if you look at the Visakhapatnam related corridors connecting the highway to the port, that's going to reduce the cost. And with almost doubling the capacity of the ports in the last 10 years, we have a substantial reduction in the turnaround time. With the reduction in the turnaround time, definitely the waiting time goes down. The emissions from the ships waiting to get a berth, that goes down. So these are all the things that have happened not only to improve the logistic efficiency and also to reduce the emissions. And we at NITI have, especially the division that I had PPP vertical, we always look at how to improve the private investment, to improve the efficiency, get the innovativeness of the private investment into the infra domain, be it the model concession agreement of 2021 in the port sector, be it in MMLP concession framework, be it the highway concession framework, like recent PPP, BOT toll, the highways that are coming, the BOT toll, it's a collective effort of the government. And we are fully committed to improving the logistic efficiency and also making it more green. Thank you so much, Jai.
The distinguished panelists and the audience, the most important. Every time when I speak, I always feel that the most difficult thing is to listen. Listen so much. बोलना बहुत आसान है और सुनना उतना ही difficult. And active listening. I don't know how many of you are actively listening. Very difficult. यहाँ पे I will speak in Hindi. I think it is better. I hope you all. मुझे लगता है कोई यहाँ पे जो हिंदी नहीं समझते हैं. Okay, you know. Okay. So I must speak in English then for that. Okay. I first thought that I will speak about ExL logistic and all. I channelized my thought, but after having listened to all the panelists, I think the key is sustainability, and there are very thought-provoking kind of remarks were given. I'm new to logistic, and barely 3-4 months that I have done the charge of JS Logistics, but I did a job for more than 2.5 years. I was Secretary, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Government of India. So today when I was listening all this, I was thinking that better to think like Secretary BWG. I want to say few quick points. I am just adding to the dialogue which happened on sustainability. Of course, as Government of India, our aim is, as per the Logistic Policy 2022, to make the logistics sector sustainable in terms of use of low non-fossil fuel, reducing the carbon footprint, and also reducing the energy intensity of the logistic activities, making it carbon neutral, and all. But after more than maybe how many years, this word sustainable came into the discourse in 1987. Not before that. It was Bartlett Commission report, Our Common Future, by United Nations, and the word sustainable development came. And after that, it's a long journey of this controversial topic of sustainability. Today, perhaps, I'm cutting short my thought. Many things can be said. As I told you, I was Secretary BWG. We need to protect our national interest first than going into the discourse of sustainability. Here, just quickly think about the organic horticulture, organic farming. I was Director of Horticulture for more than 3 years in the Ministry of Agriculture. We have seen what fate Sri Lanka met with following blindly organic farming. Today, we are not hearing so much about organic farming. Same way, non-fossil fuel, perhaps I will agree to what Pritam ji said, we need to be very cautious. Just to give you the politics on sustainability, USA, the harbinger of these thoughts, took itself out of the Paris Climate Accord and declared, the current president in his previous presidency declared this climate change as a hoax and said that this has become a kind of arm twisting by India and China in the name of common but differentiated responsibility. Many of you may be knowing about CBDR. So what I am saying that we should be very cautious. We should be sustainable, but sustainable in our own way, sustainable in our The topic is innovating for sustainability. Innovating for sustainability is not blindly following the meaning, definition and connotations of sustainability as given by the Western power. That may be their own, just like human rights and other. We need to be sustainable, like our Prime Minister said, like our own traditional way of life in which we consume less, waste, less, and always reuse, recycle the thing. This is our Indian tradition. That we need to do. And that is a whole lot of way. Just think about this. Are we really thinking about sustainability or ease of convenience? I myself feel ashamed when yesterday I ordered on Blinkit many of the items. Actually, I would have ordered on normal delivery, but just for fun's sake, because I can in 10 minutes, and then somebody is running in the motorcycle and all and blowing all kind of pollution. It is giving me in 10 minutes. Only because ease of convenience. We are never bothering about sustainability in long term. If we would have our lifestyle should change, and that should be. Otherwise, as far as energy mix is concerned, we should be very, very judicious. This is my personal view, but even Government of India is also thinking that it should be a pretty judicious mix. If we have got coal and fossil, we will be using it in such a way that it is used less, pollution is less, many things we need to do, but not blindly following. So that is the policy dilemma we are kind of muddling through. As far as ExL Logistics is concerned, very quickly I want to inform this August gathering that many things we are trying to do. Not only on the infrastructure, through the PM Gati Shakti initiative, but also through ease of doing business in ExL Logistics by trying to solve the issues of policies and regulations through the system improvement group. ELOX is there, and we are trying with all the stakeholders. Also, the platform like digital platform like ULIP is also helping to give a real kind of data to all the service providers in the ExL Logistics as to how different kind of government systems are throwing the data, even FASTag data or FOIS data and like that. On that field, we need to move a long way, we need to go. It is not that we have reached there. There are a lot of issues in standardization of the processes of the port, the airport on which we are working. We need to make it a kind of benchmark comparable to the global standard. The flagging of Indian ship, as pointed out by Subrans, is one of the issues we are dealing with. Shipbuilding itself, and then there is a multimodal in transport infrastructure from CFS to the hinterland to ICD and to the ports. All need to be geared up. There is a lot of work need to be done, but I can assure you that whatever is possible as a coordinating logistic wing in Department of Industrial Promotion, we are doing, and you are most welcome to approach anytime me and my division and raise your issues, whatever in the field of or in the domain of ExL Logistics, we will try to solve it out. Thank you very much.
45 minutes late, I am not taking the questions, but the panelists are available where you can interact with them.
Thank you CII for actually inviting us, and it is this is very, very important. It is a pleasure to step away from our operational hullabaloo and actually talk about something which really affects the future of our industry, which is the people. So the opening remarks, I would just like to say is logistics is not the same that we grew up with. Back in 1999 when I started with this industry, we were sending information through faxes, receiving just phone calls only in the work time. So it is more than moving cartons from point A to point B. Right now we are managing data streams, complex compliance sets, API-led tracking visibility tools. So it is all about digital and sustainable fluent workforce. So, but all this workforce, if the workforce doesn't evolve as fast as the industry is, we'll just have shiny warehouses, amazing systems, and people who don't know how to work on it, or worse, trying to actually change it and override it. So future-ready workforce is a very, very critical need of the hour. And thank you again, CII, for having a skilling session. You can have as much number of advanced systems, AI predictive tools, anything. But if the people are not comfortable working, all this will not actually help us go anywhere. So again, I would just like to
thank you so much, Suvi. And now I'd like Mr. Karthik Kambaram, co-founder and head of solutions of STAR, to tell us a little about what you really do. And of course, you are in the thick of the churn of the workforce, the Gen Zs. I'm sure you'll soon be looking at the betas in a while. But, not organized, we weren't recognized for there was no recognition for the longest time. So I think we've come a long way, and Mr. Karthik, like you say, I think this is a journey we've started. At least we are speaking about it. We're ready to listen to each other on it. So now I'd like to, I think just have, this is an interaction and a conversation. So we are talking about skill gaps all the time, right? It's become a buzzword. Now, when we say skill gap, where really do you think is the skill gap? Is it from the industry side? Is it from the education, from the supply side, or the demand side? I mean, can we pinpoint that skill gap when we say skill gap? It looks like sometimes it's just a report that needs to be there. But have we really delved in detail to say, okay, in my company, I feel there is a talent gap here. So, I mean, is that something that you do within the company, and can we also look into those kind of experiences that you've had within the company as well?
Yeah, of course, Smita. So, when we talk of skill gap, it is it's a real gap. The number is, and I was reading a survey which said about 18 to 20% of the warehouses in India, operators don't know how to use a digital scanner. There are people who are not literate in actually filing an e-airway bill, or don't know how to use a dashboard. But when we say the skill gap, where does it start? I would say it starts everywhere, right from the educational institutes. You don't have supply chain being taught right now anywhere. Of course, back then. Now you've just started having institutions, academic institutions, having supply chain and logistics as a when I remember when I was doing my MBA, and I've actually specialized in international marketing, and I remember the two things that I read was creating a letter of credit and Incoterms, that's all. So the modern freight needs aren't taught right now, and we learned logistics on job. But right now, of course there's been improvement. There's been a massive improvement, and I would say COVID has been a boom for digitalization and automation, which actually led us to understand, make trainings. Earlier trainings were what? 3-hour session in a classroom and a fat manual, which was given but not read by anyone. So what has digitalization done to the skilling is that you've made computer-based trainings. You have digital on the on job trainings, hands-on trainings. So. But of course we've come a long way, but we still need to go a long way, and we have to adapt. So I would say in my company, when we started, and all the organizations right now have actually understood that this is a strategic investment. It's just not an HR cost. And people need, and we in India have so much of manpower, we just need to harness that power. So we have hands-on trainings. We've actually, not just my company, Cargo Partner, but a lot of companies have partnered with academic institutes. We have, I see Alpana here, and Logistics Gurukul has been a great platform training the employees and the fresh graduates to look at supply chain as a very empowering sector. Before 2020, when supply chain was not on the newspaper, front page of newspaper, and now of course with the government, Indian government putting a lot of focus, we've now got it, and people are interested in this, and all we need to do is just give them the direction, that hand-holding for them to come. So in my company, we've created center of excellence, for each industry. So a freight forwarding company deals with various industries, be it automotive, be it pharmaceutical, be it electronics, and every industry have their own niche needs. So creating that center of excellence, training people, and how, not just a 3-hour class, but by giving them hands-on training, taking them to ports, seaports, manufacturing sites. So this is what, putting training in the DNA of your workforce by again going out with academic, Logistics Gurukul, DG Train, going to institutes like Fortune Institute or MBA institutes. Second, what we've done is we have a global rotation. We've sent our workforce globally. So let's say a 24-year Indian graduate goes to a Polish hub, goes to Dubai airport to learn the cold chain compliances. And imagine what he can come back and bring that to Indian economics and economy and into your own organization. Skill force. So skilling has been, it is working, but of course collaboration is one, academic, private, public, and of course hands-on center of excellence and cross-cultural agility, training your port to be comfortable with data.
Thank you, of course. And for the longest time, we've tried to make industry understand that, and now industry is getting into the fore of that understanding. And of course, it's about people, so collaboration and partnership. And there is no dearth of good learnings across the sectors. And we always believe that, especially if you have to skill, you have to learn from each other, because everybody's experiences enriches what you want to do finally moving forward. So, Mr. Karthik, I know you work with the workforce at, I think, a large scale. So, what really is the talent gap that you see? When you go out into the market and you have to, or they come into you for, even securing an employment. Where is it that you see that gap? And maybe I can just put the other, related interaction as well together. That how do you think we can solve it, or how are you already solving for it?
Thank you. The thing that we're really looking at is, we are looking at from a problem solving perspective, right? We are looking at, can we solve the problem for today? Right, that's an approach, and I think you also spoke about, you have people
and they won't have enough skills to do the jobs, right? So the problem is we have ITIs, we have polytechnics, we have engineering colleges. For what? We have this National Skilling Development Corporation to fix a problem which should have been addressed at the school and all these institute levels. And what we are trying to do is, and we are also very proud of this fact that in India we are very proud of this entire concept and word called Jugaad. And we are very proud of it actually. Right? I think we should not, we are also talk about this entire aspect of Jugaad and being very proud of them. We get into this habit of let a problem come and fix it. What we are facing is we have not done this, which we have done at the school and the college level. And hence we are trying to sort of solve this problem now. And imagine the kind of money it costs. I just want to give an example. Okay, we work with JSW and I just thought I'll give you an example here. And JSW, they have women in the mines. Okay, so we are talking logistics industry as a tough industry. Mines is even tougher. Okay, imagine the kind of effort they have to put to have the women actually working there. Right now, for example, they have to ensure that they do simulated training for them. Right? Virtual simulated training for them.